Warning. Listening to this show may result in increased levels of inspiration, motivation, and innovation. Side effects can include the immediate urge to take massive action to build a better business and life for yourself and others. You've been warned. Welcome to Influencers Radio with your host, Jack Mize.
And welcome back to another episode of Influencers Radio. You know that old idiom, living the life of Riley? Well, I think we are going to redefine that today because my guest is Forbes Riley. And I'll tell you right now, if you don't recognize her name, you will surely recognize her face because she has been on your TV screen for the last 30 years, selling you some of your favorite products. I know some of my favorite products, whether it's a Jack Lalanne juicer, on the home shopping with her spin gym, phenomenally successful spin gym. And that's just scratching the surface. She's managed to sell over $2 billion worth of health, wellness, lifestyle products. But she's also been inducted into the International Fitness Hall of Fame. She's also a host of one of your favorite TV shows. And in her spare time, she manages to be an actress on shows like 24. And I can tell you that's just scratching the surface of where you may have seen her. So let me welcome to Influencers Radio, Forbes Riley. Forbes, welcome.
You know, I think I do this just because the introductions are so much fun. Can you wake me up in the morning with those credits?
Well, I can tell you what, I probably would have to wake you up in the morning if I went through everything that you've done, because it's almost like you can't, I don't think I've ever heard a story that Forbes Riley couldn't come back and say, oh yeah, well, this is what, listen, what this happened, you know? It doesn't matter whether you're talking about being in a cult hit, you know, horror movie to dancing on stage with Bob Hope. You seem to have done it.
To working for Club Med around the world and skiing every mountain, doing stand-up comedy for Jose Cuervo Tequila. Yes, it's a very eclectic career.
I know. I don't think there's a bumper sticker big enough to hold any of this stuff. But
well, here's a bumper sticker. I live my life to the fullest. I think that's the bumper sticker. And I also made my own rules. And I think that's one of the fundamental things. I don't know why I didn't get the rule book when I was a kid. I just didn't. And I had two wonderful parents, and I graduated. You know, I skipped a year of high school and a year of college. I graduated with 2 degrees in 3 years. And then as soon as I did, I grabbed a book that said Europe on $20 a day, turned to my beautiful parents after I started my first movie and said, I'm going to see everything in this book, tear out the pages, and come home when I have just the cover. And I went on my own. And I talk to people all the time who were stuck in a job and literally said right after college they got enrolled in this job and they're there and they're bored and their life sucks and whatever the deal is. I didn't get that manual that said you need to do that. And I didn't know that I was any different. I just kept following my own North Star. And I got to tell you, it truly has written a great story because I did say something to my mom. I was 21 years old. I had my airline ticket in my hand. Oh, no, I hadn't had it yet. I said, Mom, I have this vision that I'm like 83 years old, and I'm sitting around talking to my grandkids and all these other kids and telling them this wonderful story of my life. Only I haven't done anything, so I better get going. And that was the preamble. That was the entire business plan for the last 30 years. And I know that sounds crazy, but it's manifested in something wonderful. My second business plan, which I've actually engraved into my makeup counter in my television studio, is simply dream it, believe it, achieve it. Now, in the hands of most people, that sounds very trite. Not in mine, and I teach this. I teach that most people simply don't dream big enough. They hear, oh, you can't do this, you shouldn't do this, 50 reasons why not, and they listen to those. I have sort of earplugs, and I just never listened. And by the way, I don't like the word no, so I went ahead and redefined no. Let me ask you a question, and all your listeners. Does the word no mean stop or go to you? Jack, what do you think?
I think probably a lot of people no means stop, we're done.
Well, but think about this, because if you ask somebody to marry you, and they say yes, that's when you stop. You don't ask a couple of other people, right? So the funny thing is, it's a real quick story. Who taught me no? My 5-year-old son, who's now 12. He walked in, he said, Mommy, can I have a piece of chocolate? It was right before dinner time. I said, no. Goes away, comes back 5 minutes later, he looks at me with these big blue eyes, like, Mommy, if I have a piece of broccoli, can I have a chocolate? I was like, no, it's dinner time, go away. He comes back 5 minutes later, and he's like, he's got this little hand on his hip. He's like, Mom, look, I'm a kid and I want some candy. And I said yes. And the funny thing was, he didn't come back. So what happened? The yes was the stop, and he interpreted no, and I redefined this, and if you get nothing out of this interview, this is the thing you need to remember about Forbes Riley. N-O, never-ending opportunity. If you get a no, you ask the wrong person, the wrong question, become a no collector, embrace that, because everybody who's not you, who's not daring enough and not bold enough and not dreaming big enough will say no because they don't know what else to say.
Well, that right there is extremely powerful, and I think it's going to be doubly important because it foreshadows what I want to dig into today. Because, you've certainly created and been part of influencing millions of people to take action and change their lives with some fantastic products. Jack Lalanne, a pioneer in the fitness industry, in introducing masses to the benefits of juicing. You've been a part of that. Today, what I want to do is I want to dig deeper into your success that goes beyond the products. Because, as great and revolutionary as the products are, you say the real secret to your success comes down to the pitch, which I guess gets people to either keep going through those no's or getting to that yes. That it's not necessarily the product, and even though the product needs to be great, the pitch is what really get you there. So let's dig into this, and I really want to dissect this because a lot of people have seen your great products and they see and you're passionate about it, just driven with those. But if we could take it a level deeper and let people understand that have their own products, their own services that they may be just as passionate about, or even charities that they're just as passionate about, what really comes down to the success of that is what you call the pitch, mastering the pitch. So let's start with that.
Okay, so most people think of pitch as the guy yelling at them on a television or the used car salesman, and that's not the truth. The other thing is business schools teach leadership, they teach sales training, but nobody seems to teach this pitch thing. I was in my early 20s, and I walked into a television studio, just wanted to be an actress and a television host. I'd already hosted the X Games at that point, and I did pretty well. Like I said, I was on 24 and a lot of other TV series, and it was just an audition, and there was a pen on this table. It said, look in the camera and sell me this pen. And I thought, I don't like selling. I don't like when you go into a clothing store and they try to sell you. So I picked up the pen. I looked in the camera and I said, funny thing about pens. My mom, when I was in college, used to write me longhand notes in pen. I kept them like a stack, like 2 inches thick, and they're always signed in big script, love, mommy. And I realized that a pen like this can reach out and touch somebody's heart. Well, Jake of Body by Jake comes out of the shadows, grabs my face and says, you're going to make me a lot of money. He ended up selling the network that I hosted for 5 years for $500 million to Fox. What he identified and what I did, and I didn't even know it, is that because I didn't talk about the features and the benefits, I put that same pen in the hands of hundreds of people in presentations that I do around the world, and they'll say, yeah, it feels good in your hand, it's got great ink, it sells for 99 cents. That's not how you sell things. It's not how you enroll people. So I've been on Home Shopping. Home Shopping is my day job because I'm basically a crappy waitress, and as an actress, you got to do something. And I was not promoting, and actually you end up selling fitness products all over the world. I'm currently on QVC in the UK. I'm in Singapore. I'm in Australia. I'm in Canada. Here it's a busy work schedule. But what is it that I do? And people used to ask me because I've grossed, get this, $2 billion in sales in the last 25 years. Not million, but billions. And that's because I've hosted 142 infomercials and 20 some odd years on live home shopping, where, by the way, you have to pretty much sell about $1 million a day. And I said to the person who asked me, I said, I don't know, maybe I'm just special. And then she looked at me and said, think again. I said, okay, wait. She said, well, what? I don't know what I do. And then I sat around and tried to dissect what I do. And what I do is a step-by-step, very systematic, because I seem to do the same thing all the time, is how you pitch. And a pitch, and if you've got a pen, I would write this down. What does it mean to pitch? A pitch is a one-sided conversation one-sided conversation whose sole purpose is to elicit a positive response from the other person. That's all you want. You don't want to sell them, although you can. You don't need to take their money, but you need to enroll them in that moment. That elevator pitch, that's a 2-minute, a 30-second conversation in an elevator. What is that pitch about? When you're asking people for millions of dollars in a venture capital environment, what is that pitch about? Most people don't understand the structure of a pitch or what is it that they want. So I started to teach the pitch. So if you're listening, one of the things that's really important that most people don't do is to know what the end is. Literally, what do you want? I ask people all the time, what do they want? And they look at me like, oh, I don't know. I'm like, no, you need to know before you go into it. My dad was a magician. He was an amateur magician. I do magic tricks. I've got magic tricks all over my office. I perform on stage once in a while. And think about it. If a magician didn't know how the trick ended, he'd be in a lot of trouble, right? I mean, think about sawing a girl in half. If you don't know how the trick's going to end, you have to make a call to her mother, and it's not going to be pretty. So it's the same concept. You go into a pitch going, I want you to do something. So if you've got a great charity and you want the person in front of you to show up and contribute money, you need to enroll them and pitch them to come in and show up and do that. By the way, when you get really good at pitching, you're unstoppable. It's like having a superpower. Sadly, I've given this power to my 2 twins, and I have now had to sit through more animated movies because they pitch me like nobody's business. And that's the truth. If you can pitch and you can get to what you want, you're unstoppable. You can make the money, you can get people on your team, you can do all kinds of crazy things, but you have to, and I firmly believe this, master the pitch.
Now, a lot of people think that a pitch is something that, well, first, it seems like the people, their default is to figure out a way to excuse themselves from pitching by coming up with, oh, well, you know, I don't really know if this is my target audience, or I need to find out more about this, or we need to schedule a meeting, or we need to do this in multi-parts. You have literally sold millions of dollars worth of product in a matter of minutes by doing what you just talked about, is understanding the outcome that people want to reach and being able to describe that. What would you say to someone that says, well, I don't have time to pitch, or, you know, this might be a great opportunity, but I'm not sure if everything's just right, you know, to be able to do this?
Okay, if you're in business, that's all you need to do every day is pitch. So I give a pitch seminar, and this woman comes up to me after listening to what I said for an hour. This is why, by the way, I coach and I teach, because you can't get it in an hour, apparently. And she said, okay, ready, here goes. My name is Carol Prolap. I'm Carol Prolap Photography, and I can make your memories last forever. And she stopped talking. And I said, and she said, how was my pitch? I said, it sucked. First of all, I'm not a billboard. I'm a human being standing here. You can't pitch me like I'm a cardboard person. So one of the things that you didn't do is you didn't make an assumption. And I teach the art of assumption. And it's kind of crazy, but you're standing before somebody who happens to be Forbes Riley. And you want to assume that I'm an actress, I'm on television, I'm blah, 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 blah. If I were to rewrite your pitch, here's what I would say. Hi, I'm Carol Prolap. Second thing I would do, I don't need to know the name of your company. I need to hear your credibility instantly. And I've been in photography for more than 20 years, and I'm a published author. Number 3, make that assumption. Forbes, I know that you're a television personality. I see you on Facebook with all these beautiful photographs. Would you give me an hour, let me take some pictures, and would you publish them to your 600,000 fans? Would that be a good idea? I would say yes. Pitch accomplished. See how that would change that? Okay, just what you were saying. I had a magician come to me. He's a corporate magician and a stand-up comic. And he said, Forbes, I need props to pitch. I can't just pitch. I said, wait a second, what is it that you want? He said, well, I want to get more bookings. He said, I stand in front of all of these people. I do a great job. I get standing ovations, and I hand out my business cards, and no one ever calls. I said, well, they're not going to call. You didn't pitch them. I said, if you're sitting next to somebody on an airplane, pitch them. And he said, well, but I can't do that. I said, stop. Let's start again. He said, I need to know who they are. I said, no, you don't. You never need to know who they are, because they're always one person away from exactly who you need. You just don't know it. So you're sitting next to somebody on an airplane. You introduce yourself. People always ask, what do you do? We say, you know what? You can say I'm a corporate stand-up magician. He said, I'm a clean comic and a magician. I'm like, who cares? Here's a pitch. Hey, have you ever been in one of those meetings, corporate informational meetings, and they're so boring that you can't remember anything that was said? I get on stage and I make those meetings so magical and so funny that we actually increase your bottom line. And if you're a corporate planner, that's great. And maybe perhaps you know somebody. Can I give you my card? That's the pitch. You didn't need any costumes. You didn't need to even know who you were talking to. So when you do that, everybody everywhere is a new lead, a new client. Every time I talk to somebody, the next thing that people do wrong, and that's why, again, I coach people, because it's very individual. But people, every day you hear this. Somebody will say to you at a party, what do you do? Well, you can tell them, I'm a bartender. I had one guy say, I'm a Renaissance man. In which case, you look in their eyes, there's kind of a glaze going, okay, that's nice, end of conversation. Well, I want something from them. In my world, I want you to buy a spin gym, and I want you to like me, and I want you to get on Facebook and become one of my fans. So I'm going to, I'm going to put a spin gym in your hands. But you have that moment. The what do you do? Don't tell them what you actually do. Tell them what you're pitching. Tell them what you're about. You know, you have a radio show. So if you were standing next to somebody and said, what do you do? You know, I take entrepreneurs and I put them in front of so many other people so they have the ability to inspire people. If you're one and you've got a great book and a great story to tell, perhaps you should be on my show, or maybe you know somebody. Wow, that's a very different answer to what do you do, isn't it?
Well, it is, and I guess it's the difference between them focusing on themselves versus focusing on how they can benefit the person they're talking with.
Oh, what an interesting statement you just made. That I've uncovered is the actual secret to life. Not focusing on you, but how you can make a difference in other people's lives. When you do that, because by the way, that's why you're in business. Even if you're a dry cleaner, you want to take the spot out of somebody's clothes. If you're a dentist, you want to make their teeth look amazing. You're there for other people. That's what you do. You sell them a painting because you want their home to look better. It doesn't matter what you do. If you're not helping somebody else and enrolling them into your world, you're not generating business. And money, by the way, is simply a scorecard. The more money you make, the better you scored. In fact, when you're really, really rich, people, after you get $100 million, why would people even care? But they use it as a scorecard. It's an accomplishment. And so for me, money always comes. I personally like to touch somebody's heart. I like you to leave a little better than when I found you. And that to me has been a mission. And I didn't always know this. Let me start out for something. I was an actress, a very self-involved actress. When you're an actress, man, it is the easiest, most wonderful life. They hire you. They tell you what to wear. They do your makeup. They tell you where to stand. They give you the words to say, and all you have to do is kind of emote. Then they invite you to award shows and red carpets, and life is amazing. Probably only when you're in your 20s. When you're in the business world, you spend a lot of time giving. I had the fortune or unfortunate on the night of September 10th to be flying or heading to Washington, D.C. to get on a plane on United 93 that had never actually made it home on the morning of September 11th. I walked into my parents had both passed away at the time, and literally my mom had passed away August 8th of that year. And I closed up the house that I lived in for 40 years, and I was pretty sad. My sister drove me to the airport. It was raining that night. I'd been working for ESPN, and my flight was leaving from Washington. And so I walk up to the counter, and the woman says, your flight doesn't leave till tomorrow. Where are you going to sleep? And I said, I don't know, the airport. She said, come on, you're United First Class. Let me just reroute you through Denver. When I woke up the next morning in California, home safe, my sister called and turned on the television and realized the plane that I was supposed to be on, that I held a ticket for, was now in the ground with everybody dead. I said, maybe. Actually, I don't know what I thought for the first many months. But it kind of dawned on me that if you were given a second chance in life, what would you do with it? And the first thing I did was decided that I wanted to make babies. I was already 41 years old, and my husband and I have been trying for years. All I know is we were pregnant by March of that next year, and I have beautiful twins because of that moment that really had me step back and go, let me reevaluate all this. And then if I was here and I could use my powers for good, what would it be? And so for the last 12 years, it has been about creating a conversation that helps other people. I find so many women in particular who are lost. They're lost in their bodies. They're lost in their families. They're lost. They're divorced. They don't know where to start again. When you get older, there's a discrimination in the world if you buy into that. And if I could help some people, because I decided what I wanted pretty much around that moment. I wanted two things. One, I wanted somebody to tell me every day that I inspired them. And thank God for Facebook and the internet, because people do that all over the world. I get notes every day. It says, man, you inspired me, blah, blah, whatever the story is. And I read those, and I remember that I made that commitment to myself. And then the second thing that I wanted, and it's a little selfish to talk about, but my dad was this magician, and people would always say, wow, that's an amazing trick. And when I spin gym with people, they say, oh, that's amazing. I wanted to be told that I was amazing. That was really important to me. And do you know what? It's really funny, Jack, is that because of the work that I've been dedicated to, people now, I walk in a room and they say, well, there she is. She's amazing. And what they don't know is that resonates throughout my entire soul as a powerful accomplishment. And I hear it almost every day. So know what you want and go for it. And then help others along the way.
That's an extremely valuable currency. A lot of people think of the currency that they get in business or as an entrepreneur as the dollars that come in through their products and through their sales. And I have found through talking with so many people that are influencers is that along the way they discovered this other currency, which is pretty much, the way that you articulate is probably the best I've heard, that you get when people let you know how you've affected them, how you've influenced them, how you've changed your life, that can't be measured in dollars. And I think that's tremendously powerful for people to hear and recognize that there is this other currency, there is this other reward out there for what they are doing. And a lot of people don't think about that when they're putting together their products and their businesses. And I want to talk a little bit about that because there are a lot of people out there that have great ideas. A lot of people think that, being an idea person is a rarity. And I think the world is full of great idea people. And they have great ideas for products and businesses. But the fact is, I guess you don't have a business until you have a customer. And that seems to be where people get stuck.
Here's the deal about that. Customers are everywhere. Let me share something with you. I've sold more than 1 million of these spin gyms, and nobody really wanted them. But the customer was already there, and I knew it. In fact, a lot of people said, Forbes, I was on a national TV show called Discovery, hosted by two men who said, this will never work. Here's what they didn't know. The customer was there. The customer is a woman who hates her arms. The customer is a woman who wants her belly back. The customer is a woman who doesn't have time to go to the gym. I think your customer is always there. So I do think that you need a product that fulfills a need. Every once in a while, people come and pitch me a product that doesn't make any sense. And sometimes, by the way, I never thought that a chia pet would sell either. So far be it for me to say that there's not a customer for everything. But I do think that you don't have to be the inventor. This is the big thing. You don't have to find the great idea. If your goal is to make money and influence people, right, and have a fulfilled life, there's all kind of businesses you can get into. You've got to find first something that you love to do. So think about it. Talk about it. Coach with me. Because one of the exercises that I do is, what do you want? And what do you want? It takes about 10 minutes to really uncover what turns you on. If you love talking about health and wellness, if you love talking about cars and automotive, if you love travel, there are companies set up. I love the whole network marketing thing. You can find a product that's really good. That's easy to do. What you're going to then do is discover, and that's why I think pitch is the most important thing. How do you gather leads? How do you build a community? How do you get your message out to the world? And today, with the internet and social media, it is easier and you're more effective than you've ever been before. But I do believe that you have to have clear-cut strategies.
And I think that's where I guess what I was going with is you have to have a customer, meaning you have to get that product in front of a customer. It's not just enough to create that great product, but you have to let people know that it exists. And you have to let people know how it can benefit them. And I think shows like Shark Tank have certainly put a spotlight on this because these people have to pitch, I guess, what we see on TV in a matter of minutes and convince folks that this is something that can benefit and can make other people money. One of the things that you have done, and I've heard stories with the spin gym, a lot of people think that, well, in order to sell this, I have to wait till I can get into front of this big audience to sell this, or I have to find this mass exposure right off the bat. But there's been documented, you've actually sold spin gyms standing in line at Starbucks. You've sold spin gyms on airplanes. You've sold spin gyms when you had an audience of 10, not necessarily 1,000.
I sold spin gym naked in a sauna. I sold spin gym in my gynecologist's office. I met a new gynecologist within 4 minutes of meeting him. He bought a spin gym. No, this goes back to the art of the pitch. Seriously, I sold it naked in a sauna. How do you do that? How do you get people to run to their pocketbooks and give you money? It is how you enroll people in what you're doing. The big myth is, yes, I've been selling spin gyms out of the back of my car since I started this thing. I sold one last night. I was at a girlfriend's meeting. I belong to a huge travel club called World Ventures, this great discount travel club, which if anyone wants information, reach out to me as well. In the back of the meeting, I sold a spin gym to a woman. You're like, how do you do that? I sell when I go to the hair salon. So it is about the level of engagement and passion with which I talk about what I'm doing, find out what their needs are quickly, and fill them. So what is it that you have to ask? What is it that you do? Are you part of a company maybe that sells vitamins or sells, noni juice or makeup or skincare? How do you get into a conversation with somebody? And this is a big, really, really important thing, especially if you're one of the people who are in network marketing. There are millions. I'm going to Kansas City tomorrow to speak about this. I travel around the world because these people have been sold a bill of goods. You can make $1 million selling this vitamin. Well, here's what you need to do. You don't want to necessarily be pitching your friends and family because after a while they won't like you. But you always have to find an open door, or you have to create it. And that's what I've mastered, and that's what I teach. I can't walk up to somebody and say, wow, your skin looks crappy. You want to buy a skincare product? But I can walk up to them and start talking to them and enrolling them about whatever. In particular, I love putting a spin gym in people's hands. And how do I do that? I don't talk about it. This is one of the more fun things that I teach. Literally, if you buy into this, you can do whatever you want if you've got a spin gym in your pocket. Because I take it out and I just start playing with it. Literally online at Starbucks. Literally in the lounge of an airport, okay? I start playing with this thing. It looks like a colorful yo-yo. I'm basically getting a workout. That's what it's doing. But I know people are watching me. So magician that I am, I'm thinking, there's probably a couple of people there who are wondering what I'm doing. If I happen to meet one of those in the back by the bathroom when we're on the plane, they're going to go, hey, what is that? And I always wait. And I look at somebody and I might say, hey, you want to see something cool? I don't say, hey, I'm doing a fitness product and you need to have one. I say, you want to see something cool? And everyone will say, yes. I know they're going to say yes. Who's going to say no? And then I say, well, give me your thumbs. And they look like, what? And I actually put it in their thumbs and get them to spin gym in the first 6 seconds of meeting them. And then their reaction is like, wow, oh my gosh, this feels really cool. And then I have them straighten their arms and they start to feel their muscles. And then I start counting from 10 to 1 and for 30 seconds where by the way, I'm now physically touching another human. I don't know many people who can create that kind of rapport inside of 30 seconds to comfortably touch a stranger. And they're smiling. And then I might even have other people touch them and touch their arms because their arms are working, their back is working, and they're like, and then I do the biggest thing I learned after lots of mistakes. I take it away from them after about 30 seconds. I used to sit there for like a half hour and train them and do all these things, and then no one ever bought one. I take it away, and you know what the next reaction has to be, Jack? Where do I get one of those? That's great. Wow. And literally, they're like leaning forward. I've had people follow me out of retail stores. You're not supposed to be selling things in stores if it's not your store. I make them walk out to the middle of the mall, and they'll throw money at me. It's only $30. Comes with a DVD, a bag, and a book, but they're chasing after me. Because what did I do? One, I created a sense of play and fun. I showed them something that's absolutely miraculous. And here's the tool that I use. Because people say, well, Forbes, I don't have a spin gym. Well, actually, you do. If you take a class with me and become a brand ambassador, you can get one at a wholesale price. But let's say your job is that you really have a vitamin company, right? Well, think how ingenious this is. Maybe you just made a couple of bucks selling a spin gym to somebody. And then you say to them, hey, if you love doing this, can I follow up with you in a couple of days and see how you're doing with the product? You know they're going to say yes. And then you give a chance to call them. And maybe your vitamin information is in the box with the spin gym. And then in a couple of days, say, hey, I met you a couple of days ago. I hope you're spin gymming. I hope you enjoy it and love it. I've got a special going on. I market these wonderful vitamins, and you're obviously a person who wants to exercise and look and feel better. Well, if you take X, Y, and Z vitamin, and I know it works, and I've been dealing with this for a long time, maybe I send you a sample. Have you created a customer now? Have you created a loyal rapport? So I meet people everywhere. I train so many people to have this kind of level of interaction. And they're like, oh, this is really cool. You should be pitching anytime, anywhere, and here's the secret. Never let them see you pitch. You can't look like you're trying to sell somebody something. Nobody wants to be sold. It's very uncomfortable. But if you can make their life better, which is what your product's doing anyway, and I don't care, Jack, give me the oddest occupation that you've heard.
Oh, my. Well, let's see. A pygmy, what is this? A pygmy animal farmer. I can't remember what kind of animal it was, but that's what it was, a pygmy animal farmer. Okay,
great. Pygmy animal farmer. So let's assume, because I don't really know what he does, but let's assume he sells small animals, smaller dogs or smaller whatevers. You're sitting next to anybody and you get into this conversation about pets and animals and say, hey, you know what? I found the most amazing thing. Most of us have very little space. I personally love to travel. I don't know about you, but I had a big dog, but you can't take him with you. But if you have one of those miniature dogs, or better yet, my daughter, when George Clooney got a pig, that's all she wanted. And I raised these tiny little 4-pound pigs that never get any bigger than that. Can you just imagine how much fun it would be for your kids to have a tiny little animal, learn about nature, and take one with them wherever they go?
I'm in.
There you go. I just pitched you a pygmy. I mean, that's the oddest conversation I've ever had.
No, but it is, and that's where, it's the story around the product. It's I guess people, you're instantly creating this, even I guess the best word I can describe it is this romanticized vision of what it would be like to have this product or this service, or really the outcome that product or service.
You have to look at what people really need and really fill their needs. It's become so joyous because at the bottom, at the end of the day, I'm helping people. And that's what all of us should be thinking about. How do you help the person in front of you? So I was actually with the military. The most amazing thing recently, a friend of mine is a very well-honored soldier, and he said, I can get you to spin gym with the chief of presidential security. So I went up to D.C. a couple of weeks ago and spin gymmed with him for 15 minutes. He took a whole bunch of them, and then he walked out the back door. Barack Obama landed in a helicopter, and the two of them and the whole entourage took off in Air Force One. I was thrilled. One of my dreams is for Michelle Obama with her beautiful arms to spin gym, just because that's a very romantic vision of a woman with great sculpted arms, and she seems to epitomize that in our country. So, but how do I make that better? And my soldier friend said, well, I don't want you selling anybody. I said, let me share something with you. We're never going to sell this. We're going to show people who have limited time, who are maybe stuck in a barrack somewhere, who are stuck in the middle of nowhere without a gym, how they can get a workout with something that weighs a pound in a few minutes. Does that help them? They need to stay strong and sharp. I'm going to show you how you can build and stabilize your muscles so you can hold a gun longer with your arms outstretched. Think about that. And then we went to the VA, and we spin gym. I have the video on my Facebook with several vets who only had a leg or had other issues, and thanked them so much for what they do for our country, but said to me, there's nothing like this in rehab. How can we get one of these? So, of course, I gave them all. But the point is, I said, look, we're going to help as many people who can't have access to this. When I talk about spin gym, I'm thinking about the person who's sitting behind a desk for 8 hours a day trying to feed their family, but their own butt is getting bigger, or their fat is kind of cold and hard all around their body. They don't have time to go to the gym. They're getting more upset, more unhappy. They're not going to raise good kids. Their sex life sucks because they're not moving their body. If I could help that person and they could raise a better kid or have a better relationship or not yell at me if I accidentally cut them off on the roadway because they're not miserable, are we having a better life overall? So that's always my personal motive when I do what I'm doing. How do we help that person? So if I introduce it to you, believe me, I don't need the $30. I need you to get excited about your life because the world is better when you do. And so now we're listening. How many millions of people get to listen to this broadcast we're doing? Why am I taking a half hour of my life? I only have so many more minutes left before I'm not here anymore. Because I want people who are listening to this right now to take action. Say, hey, you know what? I just listened to Forbes Riley. One, I'm going to come support her on Facebook because this girl's doing great work. And two, maybe I can get a spin gym. That's a fun idea. Feel a little better. Maybe give one to a kid who's cheerleading or a baseball player that I know or somebody stuck in an office, or better yet, how about our old folks stuck in a senior home where there's nothing to do because if you don't move, you die. And I'm also going to do something amazing today. I'm going to pay something forward. If everybody did that, I remember when I saw that movie with Haley Joel Osment, the concept of paying something forward every day. When you do that, you feel better. I get so sad with people who have suicidal thoughts. I work with a lot of them, from soldiers to all kinds of people who are at that point. And my advice is always stop. Stop thinking about you, how miserable your life is, or even how you feel. Go find a little kid who has no parents and nobody to hold their hand for Christmas. There are kids out there all over the world who have nobody. There's a dog out there who can't eat, or somebody's beaten up and needs a home. Take your misery and make it positive for somebody else. And I know and I guarantee you will feel better.
That's tremendous. And, I think that's one of the reasons why I consider you a true influencer, because, it goes far beyond, products and sales and really changing, people's lives is what you're doing. And to me, the way that you've defined the pitch, it's not about selling someone. It's about giving them some very compelling reasons that why they want to buy what you have, or why they want what you have. And I think that's the big difference between selling and giving them every reason to understand why they need what it is that you have. And that's incredibly powerful.
I firmly believe that you take the time to believe in it, whether it's your charity, whether it's even your kid's game and you want people to come, and cheer them on. If you believe it and you love what you're doing and you take the time to share it with somebody else and you do it in the right way, you cannot help but enroll them. And when you do, life is better.
Well, yeah, absolutely. You brought up one thing that I want to make sure that we cover before you have to go, and that is you brought up a very important point in that the product, the business, the idea doesn't have to be your own. And you've been on both sides of this. You've been very successful at selling, obviously, your own product, the Spin Gym. You've also been very successful in selling and pitching other people's products. Do you see an advantage or disadvantage with, being so close to it with your own product? And do people have just the same, opportunities for success by finding something else that they feel as passionate about that they can sell that may not be something that they created themselves?
Okay, there's a very funny thing about this. I made a vow to myself many, many years ago. I said there's two rules that I'd like to live by. One, I didn't want to do nudity in movies. I broke that rule twice, and you can look on the internet and find them. They were good characters. And two, I didn't want to sell anything that I didn't love. And every once in a while I've broken that too, and I know how miserable that makes me feel. If you are in a job that you don't love, if you're selling something that you don't care about, you will never do a great job. I don't care who you are. You can't. I sell on home shopping. I've sold other people's products my whole entire life, and I sell the benefit of the product. When I first met Jack Lalanne in 2002, who, by the way, was one of the greatest men who ever walked the planet, if you heard his name and you don't know who he is, please Google him. He, at 14, gave up sugar and set on this health mission. He helped train Arnold Schwarzenegger at his funeral, dedicated his whole career to Jack. At 70, Jack pulled 70 boats full of 70 people handcuffed and shackled across the Alcatraz River for a mile and a half. He was an amazing inspiration who left me with legacy things like, if man made it, don't eat it. And we sold a juicer. Nowadays, there's lots of juicers. I didn't sell Jack's juicer, although I'm a huge fan of Jack, and it was a good, quiet juicer. But I sold the benefits of getting healthy, nutritious juice in your body, and that is my passion. So as long as the juicer works, and now there's 15 different brands, depending on who the people are in the company and I like who I'm with, I'll pick one of those. I sell an urban rebounder trampoline because when you bounce on a trampoline, I don't know if you know this, but your limb system has no pump like your heart and blood do. You need to be bouncing. It's why kids bounce. I sold $10 million worth of trampolines. So if there's a benefit and a reason to sell it, and it's a good, sturdy product, I'm all in. But I will share a tiny caveat. There's a little bit of difference when it comes to Spin Gym. I'd looked for many, many years for someone to put my name on. And people go, really? It's a yo-yo? I'm like, no, you don't understand. It's not the yo-yo. It's the exercises that we do with it. I got mugged in 1982 and ended up in a dojo and studied martial arts for the last 30 years. I became a brown belt in Taekwondo, Aikido, Wing Chun. And when I put this in my hands, also being a licensed massage therapist because I needed to take a detour from my acting career for a while, so I know what you look like without your skin on, and a Broadway dancer, and somebody who fought her way her whole life. This, to me, epitomized everything that was. I created all of the exercises that go with it out of my own head. Nobody else gave them to me, and I recently got issued a U.S. patent on my exercises for what I do. I'm very passionate about it. And so it's the kind of thing, if you're a parent, you love kids. They're all great, right? You'd help any of them. But you tend to help your kid just a hair more because they're yours. There's something about when you create a company, and Spin Gym is my heart. I believe 1,000% I'd walk over hot coals to tell you that I'm right, to get you to try it, to get you to enroll it, to get you to use it. That's that little bit of difference that I just think it's the most amazing thing. And if somebody showed me something better, I'm all in. But I'll tell you what, I'm one of the leading experts when it comes to fitness products. Care of that audition with that pen and Body by Jake? I've sold more than 1,500 different products on television, given our show and infomercials and other things over the years. This, to me, is the best. And one of the reasons it's the best is because it does everything. And you can't take a treadmill on an airplane. You can't take your Pilates machine or a jump rope well, you can take a jump rope into your hotel room, but not very effective. You do this thing anywhere from a hospital bed to a wheelchair to your desk, to the baseball dugouts. I've got pictures doing it all over the world. And it also helps improve posture. Here's a crazy little thing. At the end of my life, if that's what I'm known for, the whole texting and computer thing, we're all losing our posture. I deal with $10 million pitchers. That's how much these guys are worth. And they're all getting surgery, the Tommy John surgery and this surgery, because their posture sucks. We're having an effect on those guys. So I'm all in on this thing. I want to say that it doesn't much matter what you choose, but my hope for you, whoever's listening to this, is that you find something that you're all in about. It doesn't even have to be something you make money with. You're all in about helping kids and, saving dogs. at the end of the day, it's he who wins, he who has the most does not win. It's he who left the biggest legacy. It's he who touched the most people. Did you raise your kids right? So my measure of success is not, it's why I don't work for a corporation. Corporation is designed that every year they have to increase by 10% or 5%. I don't really do that. I'm sure it's important on some global level to increase every year, but it's not realistic. And you don't need to make yourself nuts over sales goals. And I mean, we all have them. Believe me, I have a little bit of pressure on my end as well. But that isn't why I've ever done anything I've done. And if you stop in your life, you're doing a radio show. You found a passion, and I know you love it. I listen to the questions that you've asked and the care that you took to do the research on me, and I'm sure all the people that come through. You're here because you want to communicate something, and your job right now is to find other people who have great messages and pull it out of them and give them a platform. Congratulations, Jack. Good for you. Job well done. At the end of the day, that's what I believe is really important.
People need to listen to what you just said 2, 3, 4 times because there's so many different levels that they can learn from in what you just said, the products you talked about, the way that you talked about them, the story that you built around that is such a condensed and just a spotlight on everything that we've talked about today. Colleges and universities across the country right now are starting entrepreneurship degrees and programs. And to me, surely there should be a Forbes Riley 101 class in the requirement mix there.
I love you for that. Thank you.
But unfortunately, they're probably not. So how can people find out more about Forbes Riley and all the things that you're involved in? Because I think you've probably resonated with people on so many different levels and so many different topics today. And there's so much more to Forbes Riley than we've even been able to scratch the surface on today. How can people find out more?
I'll tell you something that's exciting to me. I'm starting, and it's not. Hopefully, by the time people listen to this, it will be in full bloom. A website and a web world and a blogazine called the Forbes Factor. And at the moment, you can always go to ForbesRiley.com. That is my name and my home image. But we're building a portal. And Forbes Factor for me is a place that people can come to experience my world. You can come into it if you're curious about business. You can come in if you want to know how to get your inventions out to the world. I have a section for that. If you want to learn about Spin Gym, if you want to learn about healthy living tips, it is truly my one-stop solution. My years of experience, my personal take on life. It's even got a section for books. I'm a huge fan of you turning off the news and reading something inspirational every day. And as I look around my home and my office, I have stacks and stacks and stacks of books, from Og Mandino's The Greatest Salesman in the World to Paula Bragg's How to Detox and, take toxins out of your system with apple cider vinegar. I have everything. I'm looking here what I have: Smart Medicine for Healthy Living. I have Eat Right for Your Body Type, and then I have How to Say It. I have all kind of web marketing for dummies. But I believe that knowledge is power. And there's so many great things out there that I've decided to distill it down into my own personal world. We're going to launch that, and hopefully by the time you're listening to this, you've gone back many times to watch some videos, learn some things, maybe become a part of my community. So always go to Forbes, ForbesRiley.com. On Facebook, I just crossed over. I have 600,000 fans around the world. I post regularly. I love to post. I love to meet people. I even put this in Forbes Factor. There's a section for when I take photos with people, because I meet people every day, whether it's celebrities or people on the plane. A woman at dinner last night, literally, she came up to me and said, "Oh my God, I thought I knew you." She said, "A couple of years ago, I was in the back of an airplane. My back hurt me, and you were back there spin gymming by the toilet, and you made me spin gym." And I thought, "Oh my God, it's happening. This is so perfect." So I invite you to come be part of my world. Also, if you go to ForbesRiley.com, we're always offering free things. I've got a pitch book that I offer for free. And I'll tell you what, the more you give away, the more you get. I think I coined this phrase the other day in a seminar that I was teaching in Palm Springs. I said, the more you give, think about how you'll get back in a way that you could have never imagined. And that has been my life. People said, "Can you make a 5-year plan?" I said, "There's no way. I didn't know 5 years ago that any of this was even possible." So I don't build my life that way. I take my dad's theory and I go to the end and say, okay, at the end of my life, and this is a very important exercise for everybody listening, if you were standing at your own memorial and somebody was talking about you, what would they be saying? I tried this exercise first when I was in my early 30s. And I had them saying that I was an Emmy Award-winning actress, mother, extraordinary wife, humanitarian. I was looking at Ariana Huffington and some other people, and I had all that. Well, I wasn't a mom at the time, and I am now. And so now when I look at the end of my life, I would like people to say, she really was that inspiring. I took a leap of faith because Forbes Riley said it was okay, because they said there's no other way. I got over what kept me from being who I am. I have a phrase that I live by that says you are the sum of the obstacles you overcome. So if you're a trust fund baby and you have the easiest life in the world, you're probably boring and I don't even want to meet you. But if you're somebody who struggled and you had hardships, and boy, I was 14 years old when my dad slipped and put his hand in the printing press. I spent 3 years in the hospital. No money. I know what it was like to be completely dead on broke and watch your dad literally almost every day. He had 15 operations during my high school. I wondered at some point when I grew up, because I think I'd forgotten that for a while, why didn't I go to, any baseball games or football games? I didn't go to any of that because I was always seeing my dad. But the funny thing happened, because of him, I had this need to make his life better. And so I, against my will, and entered a beauty pageant because I needed a scholarship for college, and ended up on TV with Bob Hope in the Miss Teenage America pageant on NBC. A lot of what I did in my early years was I wanted my dad to be proud, and I wanted him to know that what he, sacrificed was really important. So if I hadn't gone through that really crappy obstacle, if I hadn't gotten mugged in LA, and man, that was a really horrible experience, I don't think Stingeon would have happened. I wouldn't be doing martial arts. I wouldn't be hanging out with my friend Don the Dragon Wilson, who's a movie star. So you have to look at the tragedy and the crap, and it will happen to you. It happens to all of us. That there is something else that comes out of it. And I'll tell you, my husband's little brother was murdered. You want really crap? I can give you crap that you go, Forbes, I don't want your life. But I'm here, and I think I'm better, and maybe even extraordinary, because I've weathered all of that, and I'm still here. And I'm here for my children, who I can't wait to, spend all the time with and grow up with. They're 12-year-old twins, and I'm loving life to no end, seeing it through their eyes. But for all the people that I now touch, when I stand on the stage and I look at people's faces, and I never have the audience dark, because it is about us touching each other, that I wouldn't trade any of the shit that I went through. I said the other day, was it last night? I think I gave a speech, and I was talking about how many people here are orphans. My mom and dad died when I was 40, within a year. I'm best friends. There are times when I feel incredibly alone. I can't believe that I don't have parents. I can't call my mom. I had the same phone number my entire life. But I look out and ask, who else is an orphan? Who else needs to be part of a community? That family can be what we build it to be, that we make this our world. Nothing's given. There's no, you're not even promised tomorrow. So what are you doing with your time while you're here? I mean, it's a little bit more global, a little bit more big-hearted. I don't know. I don't want to live any other way. I came to this place. I love it. I'm here to share it. And if I can get people to say, Forbes, you know what? Thank you for a life well lived, a good example. We're proud of you, and my life is better because of it, and my kids are happier because of changes that I made. I did okay, and my dad gets to be proud.
Well, I think that's just a remarkable lesson in that, just the thought of start writing the story that you want to be able to tell at the end of your life or in the next 10 years. That's incredibly powerful.
All of that crap happened to me from the year 1999 when my mom called and said she had cancer to 2002 after they both died. My husband's little brother was murdered. I had 2 babies, okay? So all the crappy 5 years of my life. You want to know how Forbes Riley deals with it? Write this down right now. Go to YouTube and type in Die Hard Explodes My Home. How's this for the wackiest thing you've ever heard next to the pygmy farmer? But I was remodeling my house at the time. I had these 2 babies. I was making myself nuts, and my architect said to me, he said, it's going to be $25,000 to knock this house down, but I can make it 1,000 square feet bigger for the same price. I said, dude, they don't give mortgages on houses you knock down. I said, what can I do? And then I said, oh, you know what? How about we blow it up? And he said, excuse me? I said, yeah, didn't they do that in the Mel Gibson movie? Now, again, I didn't ask anybody. There's no rule books on how you blow your house up. I said, yeah, I live in Hollywood. I went on the internet. 3 days later, literally it was Christmas of that year, I get a knock on the door, and it's the crew from the movie Live Free or Die Harder. If you watch that movie, in the first 4 minutes of the movie, they blow up a couple of homes. And they said, hey, if you can be out in 8 days, we'll blow your house up, and we'll give you $25,000. Okay, this is the craziest story you've ever heard, okay? So I said, you know what? I need to have all the shit from the last, I use bad language, for the last 5 years go away in my life. My husband and I opened the front door. We put a price tag on everything. We did a massive sale of everything in our house, and we watched the movie. I made a little, there wasn't even iPhones back then, but I cut together this tiny little movie. You'll see my little twins, and bam, when they hit the button and it actually blew up, I use that as a marker for the end of that part of my life and time to start something new. Now, here's something I've never really shared with people. Forbes, that's genius. Oh my God, you made $25,000. You got it, blah, blah. Okay, what people don't know is that would have been great. The next week of that year was the housing market crash, and I actually blew up all the equity in my property, and now it's completely upside down. And you want to go, oh, that was a stupid idea. And for the next couple of years, just between you and me, the whole front of that property, there's a guest house on the property. My whole family moved into a 1,200 square foot guest house, and we lived there for 2 years because we couldn't afford to build the house. And it was kind of funny, but that's eventually in California what made me move to Florida, because I could not afford to build the house there. My kids had to go to school. And so it all kind of worked out. But I got to tell you, it never quite works out the way you think it is. But it always works out the way it's supposed to.
That is remarkable. Well, the first part was like, oh my, what a pitch that is. To have somebody pay you to blow up your house.
I can tell you, and let me share with you. I've gotten paid. This is the little secret that I've uncovered about my own life. See, I didn't have any money growing up, right? But I watched James Bond, and I wanted to be James Bond, not a James Bond girl. I wanted to have his action-packed, fun-filled life. My dad was president of the gun club, and I wanted to scuba dive and snow ski, but I couldn't do any of that. I found myself in my 20s living at Club Med and Turks and Caicos, having them pay me to learn how to scuba dive. I did stand-up comedy at ski resorts so that I could learn how to ski. I have a big thing about kind of fake it till you make it. I got hired at this job because they thought I could ski, and then I kind of faked it until I could. Or I like to say, build the illusion to achieve the dream. And I've been doing that my whole life. So people come to me all the time and say, well, I want to travel, but I have no money. Really start writing a travel blog. Join my travel club at World Ventures and travel basically for free. It doesn't matter what you want. You've got to figure what that is, and do not let money be the obstacle, because for me, it never has. That's an obstacle in your mind.
So many people think that these are obstacles, and it's remarkable to be able to turn that. And a lot of that had to do with the way you pitched yourself to that, taking it all the way back around. If someone wanted to master what you're talking about, mastering the pitch, I know you have something special coming up here with a pitch mastery mastermind. So I wanted to make sure that we take an opportunity to let folks know about that coming up, because I think what you've done today is just that. Made people say, I want to know how to do this. So tell us just a little bit about the pitch mastery, and we'll give them a link on how they can participate in that.
When you master the art of the pitch, you're unstoppable. It doesn't matter what you want. I wanted a refund from Southwest on a coupon that had expired. I got the refund. I had people actually listen to me on the phone, do what I do. Not, nothing illegal, nothing wrong. I just, the way I pitched it, the way I stood there, stood my ground, created rapport, made assumptions, do the steps that I talk about. You can pretty much get almost anything that you want, and I say legally because you can probably use this power for bad. I choose not to. But you can get whatever you want. And it's simple, it's easy, and it's very, very coachable. So one of the things I do is I teach. I teach here. I have a television studio in St. Petersburg. I just taught in Palm Springs. I teach in Los Angeles. But I realized people can't always get to where I am, so I started a 4-week coaching mastermind about pitching called Pitch Mastery. The next one's in a few weeks. What I suggest is that people reach out to me via email. I'm going to give you an email because we always have them recurring. I know you've got a link to the one that's coming up soonest, but I'm going to invite you to drop me a personal note at sales@myspingym.com. Say, hey, I listened to your program with Jack, because I will forever, as long as I do this, offer a discount to anyone who comes after they've listened to this program. Would that be okay with you?
Oh, that would be fantastic.
Good. I was hoping you'd say that, because if you've already spent this time and invested this much time listening to me and I've touched your heart, I would love you to be part of this mastermind. I would love you to have your pitch so that you could get to do what you want. Very often people say, I want to speak about what I do, but I don't think I'm an expert. I'll share with you the first time that I stood there and declared myself an expert or said I was a CEO of my own company, I had to look around. There was no one else around. And I thought, man, it feels like I'm lying. But I was like, wow, that's cool. When you own your own company, you're a CEO. So I give people permission. I give them courage to literally step into their own greatness. And I don't know many people on the planet who offer this. And that's the beginning of pitch, is finding out where do you discover your own self-confidence. And I'll share with you, I don't care if you have to zip it up and pretend until it shows up, because it doesn't really show up. It isn't real when it begins with. I think if you go through life, the first time my husband asked me to marry him, I introduced him as my fiance. I was like, huh, really? I go, fiance? You got to go, that's funny. Or the first time you say you're a mom and you've got 2 babies, whenever you're trying to do something, you always feel a little uncomfortable. I revel in that. I live in that. And I really do believe that you set out your goals, you create them, and if you have to fake it until you make it, you will eventually make it. But if you had somebody like me on your team, and I didn't know this for a long time, I was a maverick and I was lonely and not the fun way to be. But you find mentors. People will help you. They want to help you. Trust me, successful people want to give back. It's why they are successful. And when you come to understand that, you find amazing people that you know who my speaking coach is? My personal coach for the last 10 years is NFL and broadcasting superstar Joe Theismann. He's my speaking coach. I call Joe on the phone once a month. We met many years ago. I pitched him to help me, and he has been one of my biggest cheerleaders. Well, how cool is that? So who would you like to have on your team? I'd like to have an NFL quarterback who has strategies and knows how to be a great team player, especially when I was the lonely kid. He taught me so much. He's also a guy. He thinks differently. That's been helpful. I sought out Jane Fonda. I thought she was an important person to know. I sought out the CEO of HSN, who is, been there for 9 years and created history. You can get to people when your message is clear, your heart is pure, and your pitch is clean. And again, achieve whatever you want. There is no stopping you.
It's incredibly powerful stuff. It's something that people, so many people feel that is beyond their reach, and for you to be able to bring this people and put it within their reach by putting something together like this, it really is another one of the reasons I truly consider you an influencer. We'll have a special link at influencersradio.com/Forbes where you can get the free book that tells you how to grow your business by mastering your pitch, and find out more about the upcoming mastermind. And certainly you can email Forbes as well. And I want to thank you for giving this opportunity to the listeners. And I think this is another way that we're going to be able to change a lot of lives. So I certainly do appreciate you giving this opportunity to the listeners, and also for coming on and sharing so much of your time and your experience today. It has just been my pleasure and my privilege.
Well, the thing that would make and be wonderful payment for my time and my service is for somebody listening to send me a personal message on Facebook that says, I listened to this, I was inspired, I took some action, and here's my story. So I invite you to share that, because that is what I'm personally looking for. And I'm hoping that I get a whole lot of those messages. So, Jack, thank you for taking the time and the energy to make this platform happen. I honor that, because it takes a lot of work to do what you do. And I am grateful.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. So, folks, there you have it. Check out ForbesRiley.com, ForbesFactor.com coming up to get all and everything Forbes Riley.
And then, of course, SpinGym.com. You can go to SpinGym.com and make sure you get a Spin Gym, because I'll tell you what, at the end of the day, if you're not fit, I don't care how successful you are, if you don't love your body, you can't move and enjoy it.
That right there was a pitch, less than 8 seconds, I think. It's beautiful. Well, there it is. Check it out, too, SpinGym.com. And until next time on Influencers Radio, remember, you are the only real game changer.
You've been listening to Influencers Radio. To get all past shows and updates on future shows, visit influencersradio.com today, or follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/influencersradio.